Hey vinyl community, Elliot here, Lazy Dogs Records, and this is a fall season recent pickups showing I'd like to do. It's not related to Record Store Day. I've seen a lot of Record Store Day videos in the last, since Friday, and today's Saturday, but I didn't venture out. I'm not going to venture out on the day after Thanksgiving to the shops or anything. Just too much chaos out there for me. But I want to show you some of the records I picked up in October, November, I guess basically is what it boils down to. And I got a new release that I was very happy to show, and very happy to pick up. And I want to show you. This came out in September, and I picked it up a couple of weeks ago, and that's Billy Strings, and this is Renewal. Billy Strings, and that is the name of the guitarist in the band, and also the name of the band. It's kind of both, I guess you'd say, because it is a band concept. Every member of the band plays an important role. I'm not going to go into a deep dig into this. It's hard to know. In fact, I've shot this a couple of times, and it always runs long because I get long-winded, because I am long-winded. You know, the balance between, oh, here's this record I got, here's this record I got, here's this record I got, which, I don't like that. And this is the Billy Strings record. And let me tell you, on volume, on track 3, we hear, and so on and so forth, you can go too long on it too, because people lose interest. So just a quick overview. Very good album. I would call this a newgrass. Some might call it a jamgrass album. He's very creative. He doesn't limit himself to the bluegrass, strict interpretation of bluegrass instruments. He actually uses a synthesizer here on this album. Some he does some pedal steel, or has someone doing some pedal steel on some of this. A lot of it reminded me, not all of it, but as it is a 2-record set, a lot of it reminded me of what the Newgrass Revival were doing in the late 70s and into the 80s. And really good. If you're not familiar with Billy Strings, he's an unbelievably talented guitarist with exquisite taste, and I think that's important. A lot of people can shred, whether we're talking about electric guitar, or you're talking about an acoustic guitar. In this case, it's almost all acoustic guitar. But knowing when to do what, and what's overdoing it, and what is tasteful, and what is self-indulgence is really important for an artist. And I think Billy Strings has great the ability to be tasteful in his presentation without just throwing out all the fireworks in every song and things like that. But it's an excellent album if you have any interest in that type of thing, or if you're a guitar fan and you just like great guitar players, whether you're into newgrass type music or not. This would be a good album for you to check out. Billy Strings. Okay, and the other sealed album I got this time recently was an album that came out in 2003, but of course in 2003 artists weren't putting out much vinyl, and that's Gillian Welch. I think most of you are familiar. It's not like she's some underground artist. She's a very well known and highly acclaimed artist for the last 20 years or more than 20 years, I guess. And this is, as I say, a 2003 album that was pressed to vinyl in 2018. Not an expensive record. New, got it on Amazon. New. She and her partner, David Rawlings, they do a lot of this. It's kind of do-it-yourself. I think he learned how to all the intricate details of how to master and mix, master, and press records. So he had a major hand in doing all of that. And this is a really good album. I like Gillian Welch. This is the only album I have by her. Everything else I have is CD. And I don't know, people talk about, what they hear from vinyl and what they hear in the CD. And I'm not sure I buy into all that about vinyl's warm. CD is digitalized and cold. Well, it's digitalized, I know, but it's cold or it loses some of its soulfulness or whatever. I think it has a lot more to do with how well the artist, presents the music and how well it is recorded, pressed, mixed, so on and so forth. This album, it is called Soul Journey, if I didn't say that already. And it starts out with Look at Miss Ohio, which is probably a lot of people's favorite from Gillian Welch. It's got Wrecking Ball on here. It's got Lowlands, No One Knows My Name. I really like that one. I Had a Real Good Mother and Father. And Make Me a Pallet on Your Floor, traditional song. But this is a good album. I highly recommend it. And I'd like to find more Gillian Welch. But sometimes I hate, like I say, I've got several of her albums, a couple of David Rawlins albums, and on CD. And go, all right, do I buy this, even though I've already got it in CD form, or do I spend this money on something I don't have at all in any format? And so that's a constant dilemma, I guess you'd say. If you notice in the background here, over here, my beloved Chester. Chester is dead tired. His nephew, Levi, the golden retriever, has been here for a couple of days now, been here since Wednesday night, and Levi just wears him out. So he was glad to come down to the basement at this time on Saturday night so he could get some rest on his couch. And then over here, there we go. That's Rilla the gorilla. And Rilla the gorilla's hanging out too. Rilla doesn't have a whole lot to say, but Rilla likes good music as well. One of the great supergroups, and there's been a lot of supergroups in all kinds of genres of music, but in bluegrass music, one of the great supergroups, maybe the first one that was intentionally put together in order to record an album with the top artists of that time, paying tribute to the founding fathers of bluegrass, was what became known as the Bluegrass Album Band. They put out Volume 1, which was just known as the Bluegrass Album, and I bought that Volume 1 when it came out, but here's Volume 2. I picked this up recently. Trying to pick these up. These are early 80s albums, and the later you go in their catalog, the harder it is to find it on vinyl because switched over to CD for the most part. But I was able to pick this up. Supergroup composed of J.D. Crowe, Tony Rice, Doyle Lawson, Bobby Hicks, and Todd Phillips. Some of the great artists. A lot of these artists did a lot of experimentation. They merged jazz into bluegrass. They merged rock into it. They standard country music into it and things like that in some of their other projects. But this was intentionally done to be as true to the original bluegrass form as possible. And they do a great job of this. And as I said, this lineup, of course, is a super group. Crowe on the banjo, Tony Rice on the guitar, Doyle Lawson on the mandolin, Bobby Hicks on the violin, and Todd Phillips on the upright bass. And in Volume 3, right here, I'm not going to take it out of the wrapper, they simply add Jerry Douglas. There's Jerry. They simply add Jerry Douglas to the lineup, same lineup, with the addition of Jerry Douglas on the dobro. And a couple more records I picked up. Now, I got one of those on Discogs, and I got one of those in the Steve Hoffman Forums Classifieds. Been having a lot of luck with the Steve Hoffman Classifieds. From the same seller, in the Steve Hoffman Classifieds, I picked up this album. Country Gentleman from 1963 on Mercury Records, Folk Session Inside. And this has the ultimate lineup of the Country Gentleman. You couldn't have gotten a better lineup in at any time, really, than John Duffy, Eddie Adcock, Tom Gray, and Charlie Waller. And there they are. And this is a really good album, really good. Put together on, as I said, on Mercury Records. And this was a band that would go on for decades in a lot of different personnel changes over the years, as you would expect. But Charlie Waller being the man that kept the band name and kept putting it together and reformatted it as people came and left. But 1963, and so very good shape record. So glad to get it. So that was on the Hoffman forums. I got that and one of the Bluegrass album band albums. And the other Bluegrass album band I got on Discogs, and at the same time I got this 1972 Poppy Records release. And if you recognize the man right there, that is Mr. Doc Watson, and it's Elementary Doc Watson with Merle Watson, accompanied by Merle Watson. And this has got the classic Summertime. There are thousands of views or versions of Summertime, but I think Doc Watson's my favorite version, and I love the Poppy label, of course, there. That's from 1972. And a lot of other great songs on here. Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, some traditional stuff. Some instrumentals that Doc wrote himself, which Doc didn't do a lot of writing. Did a lot of arranging. But 72 Poppy Records, Doc Watson. I've got most of Doc Watson's albums. This is one I didn't have. I think I have it on CD somewhere. But it's one I did not have on vinyl, and I was able to pick that up, and I was glad to get it. Now, from that same Steve Hoffman forum, want ads or classified ads from that same seller, I've just had a lot of luck. I've gotten a lot of records from it. I won't go into great detail on this, but this is Riders in the Sky. These are early to late 80s records from Riders in the Sky. 3 of them are on Rounder. And one of them is on was it MCA, I believe, major label. They got a major label deal for several albums, and MCA Records. And if you're not familiar with Riders in the Sky, they do a wonderful job. Cowboy songs, western songs you might hear when you if you were of a certain age, or you went back and watched vintage westerns movies, you would have heard the cowboys singing, things like that. Several of these albums, I've listened to all of them and really enjoyed them. Several of these albums are more like they present them like they're a radio show. I mean, obviously they're not. They're not recordings of radio shows, but they just present it because they do a lot of comedy and everything, and they can set up their comedy between songs as if they're playing on the radio. And one of them is an actual live album. And what else did I get? Okay, some of you may have seen my video about called Bull City Blues, about the 1930s in Durham, North Carolina, and the blues scene during that time. And since then, I picked this album up. These are hard to find. Some of these artists that played in Durham were very. There haven't been any complete albums by a lot of them, but on here, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, a great duo through the years in the blues and folk scene. They're both on here, but they're not on here together. They haven't really become a duo yet, but they're both on here. Little Boy Fuller, who was actually Richard Trice. After Blind Boy Fuller died, he recorded as Little Boy Fuller for a while. He's on here. I was really glad to get George Washington, who was called Bull City Red. He played washboard with Blind Boy Fuller. He also played guitar and did some recording, as I said, as Bull City Red. The Devil's Daddy-in-Law. Everybody know who that is? It's Floyd Council. Floyd Council's also on here, and I was glad to get him. And I won't go into the story, but if you watch my video on Bull City Blues, you hear the story of the significance in the world of rock for Floyd Council, where he comes into play. So several artists that are hard to find, hard to get copies of their music from, but got those right there. So I was glad to get that. And finally, a little rock and roll. Yeah, I got some rock and roll here. Small Faces. I did not have any Faces recordings, but I picked this up on the Hopping forums from another seller down in South Florida. And this is a DJ copy of Early Faces. It's called. It came out in 1972. The Small Faces, Early Faces. And it says DJ copy right here. And it's on Pride Records, which was, I guess, distributed by MGM. And there you can see a white promo. Pride. It's a special disc jockey record, not for sale. But somebody sold it to me. So there you go. All right. So, and I haven't played the Bull City Blues, and I haven't played the Small Face. Everything else I've cleaned and played, but I always clean my records before I put them on for the first time. And I like to wait till I've got, about 10 to 15 records to clean, because when I sit down to start cleaning, I want to, make it worthwhile. So just got these a couple of days ago, just before Thanksgiving. So I will clean them up and spin them and see how much I love them. I'm sure I'll like them a whole lot. Everybody, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. And don't let the stress of the holiday season get to you. Christmas is a-coming, that's for sure. But take time to enjoy the moment. Live in the moment some if you can. Remember, be kind to your neighbors, because we're all neighbors.